me again. I know you're gonna like it. You're gonna love it. Hey, make sure you like, subscribe, make comment, and comment. Free Palestine every day, every week, every minute. Free Palestine. Let's go. You're gonna like it. I promise you.
By her, but by other people, of public figures.
You tried to conduct a serious interview with Crackhead Barbie?
Well, no, I was asking her about a viral video of her harassing Alec Baldwin, which I do actually think is a serious thing. I do actually think public figures should not be harassed in that manner. I've had a bit of it myself, and I think it crosses a line. Right, and Alec Baldwin, as far as I'm aware, has not said anything particularly sensational about the war at all. So why she is harassing him in the street in the way that she did, I think is worthy of examination. Wow. Now, as it turned out, she had no interest in having a serious conversation. Okay, so we've cut it off. But I don't think I should be blamed for getting on someone who is literally at the centre of a quite big news story in America for harassing a famous star. Do you, Hasan?
No, it was for clout. She was doing it for clout. That's why she went on the show, also for clout, which you were correct on pointing out that using the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people as a vehicle to create more social clout for yourself, social capital for yourself is pretty disingenuous, pretty messed up.
I have to jump in there, though, because isn't that what everybody's doing? Isn't that what this show is also doing? Because you're talking about create political clout, create noise,
I'll come back
to get clicks, to make money.
Listen, let's not all be disingenuous.
No,
right?
but the whole conversation, and actually Crackhead Barney isn't that different to you. Well, actually, and Crackhead Barney said it herself. She said, we're no different. And I kind of agree with Crackhead Barney. I didn't think I'd say it.
If you think there's any correlation between what she just did on the show...
someone screaming over someone and not letting them speak. Right. There's definitely a correlation.
Well, you think that I've treated you like she treated Alec Baldwin?
No, I'm just saying that I think that actually you aren't that different. You're trying to do the same thing.
I'll come back to that.
You're just doing it in a different way.
No, it's a preposterous suggestion. I do not do what she does, right? But Hasan, here's the point I would make to you. A lot of people think a lot of these protesters at universities in America are performative. The ones who are chanting their support for Hamas, the ones who are chanting about intifada and pretending it's not about a violent uprising. I mean, do you accept that a lot of that is not only performative, but public demonstration of support for terrorism?
Absolutely not. I don't think that... I mean, all protests are technically performative, obviously, but there's a very clear-cut goal for the group of students at Columbia and many other universities. I was in Melbourne not that long ago, and I attended a Palestinian protest there, a Palestinian rally there, and the students there were also demanding the exact same thing, that they their colleges divest from a lot of the companies that are aligned with the state of Israel, a lot of the companies that are directly involved in operations in the West Bank, a lot of the companies that are playing a role in the regular maintenance of the apartheid regime of Israel and helping Israel conduct an ethnic cleansing campaign. That is the ultimate goal. That is why they're trying to very clearly cause a little bit of a disruption and engage in.
But are you comfortable? Okay, but are you comfortable?
The most American thing you can do.
Are you comfortable with the ones who are seen chanting support for Hamas or chanting about intifada?
I am perfectly comfortable with people chanting about the intifada. As far as the Hamas thing goes, any kind of protest is always going to have a litany of random people, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. You have to look at the actual tangible goals that the protest movement is stating they're interested in. And I think that those goals, and I think you will agree with me on this, Piers, I think those goals are pretty valid overall. I think that they want to, one, recenter the attention to the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza, and two, demand that their tuition dollars do not go to operations in Israel. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a campus. There's going to be a sister campus that is being built in Tel Aviv right now for Columbia University. This means that Columbia University, which once housed the likes of the late great Edward Said and many others, and that currently has many Palestinian students who pay tuition for projects such as this one, will not be able to go to that sister campus. I find that abhorrent, but it's everyday existence in Israel.
Let me bring in Emily. You've been listening to all this. Your response?
With all due respect, Hasan, why do you feel that Columbia, or any college for that matter, owes you to divest from Israel? Why do you think your opinion is correct? Because so far, I heard the classic buzzwords: apartheid, discriminatory, ethnic cleansing, and genocide, which is funny because it's all the exact opposite. So if I may ask you, what about Israel is apartheid? You also just said the students in Israel, the campus in Israel would not allow Palestinians to join. Are you confused, or do you know nothing about the country of Israel? Because let me remind you, Jews are not allowed in the West Bank and Gaza. However, Arabs have full Israeli citizenship, have the rights, are members of the Knesset, which is the equivalence of, you can think of Congress, and even prosecuted a former Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, an Arab judge. So what apartheid exactly are you speaking about? What genocide? What ethnic cleansing? And secondly, how dare you say it's okay to talk about an intifada? Let me remind you, the intifada, last time it happened in Israel, consisted of thousands of people dying in bus bombings. So are you saying that you support terrorism and killing innocent people?
Well, intifada simply just means revolution, and I'm an American, and in 1776,
violent
we did
revolution.
one of those, and it was pretty fucking good. Yeah. What do you think? The American?
Okay.
Do you think the American Revolution was a tickle party? Of course not.
We also bombed Hiroshima.
Don't. Yeah, I know, and that was also unjust and unimaginably cruel. But of course, the Israel Defender is also defending nuking civilians and killing them by the hundreds of thousands. Now listen. Let's get back. Let's get back.
But when it goes
let's
against
refocus the conversation to the points that you made. Let's refocus the conversation to the points that you made.
Okay, look,
you said,
just to remind everybody, I'm actually moderating this, but that's an interesting point that Emily just raised, Hasan. It does seem that you're very selective about the violence that you support. That when you support it, it's justified. When other people use things in a violent way that you don't support, it's unjustified. Seems like it's all skewed to what Hasan Piker thinks.
Well, not necessarily just what I think. I think that there are obvious markers, obvious boundaries. I don't think violence against civilians is justified. I have talked about October 7 on this very same show, saying that it was a tragedy. It was atrocities that occurred on October 7 specifically. When you target civilians in any capacity, I think that that is unacceptable. However, this does not mean that violence will not occur in many circumstances. Violence has occurred in every single revolutionary action, many good revolutionary actions. Obviously, America bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with an atom bomb, that was not a very good
Hamas did on
moment
October
for
the 7th.
anybody. It was not a very good moment for human civilization at all.
Was what Hamas did on October the 7th? Was what Hamas did on October the 7th an example of what you would call a justified revolution?
I don't look at every single act of violence. I look at
You've literally just been reciting a whole load of them.
Systems of oppression.
Why are you avoiding October the 7th?
You do it too.
No, I don't.
I'm not avoiding it. I've talked about it a million times over.
Let me ask you one more time.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Emily, hang on.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Let me just ask you directly one more time. Let me ask you one more time. Do you believe what happened on October the 7th was a justified act of revolution? Yes or no?
I do not, and I do think that. Oh, wait, hold on. That's let me clarify. Let me clarify something very important here. Events that unfolded on October 7 were atrocities. That much is clear. Those atrocities could have been avoided if Israel was not an apartheid regime. Israel has been an apartheid regime for 75 years.
Can you answer how Israel's an apartheid regime?
In the
because
early,
you keep repeating that.
No, you can't just chime in. You can't just chime in. You
Back
ask me a question. You want it?
Why
you ask me a question. I'm going to give you an answer.
Because you're repeating
Israel
these lies.
has been an apartheid regime since its inception. Until 1967, Israel was an apartheid regime for the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs, as you called them. There was a two-tier criminal justice system. They were subjected to the military court processes and not the civil court processes until 1967. After 1967, they got citizenship. There are obviously still many different social issues that pertain to the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs that are living in Israel, those who are not Jewish, of course. However, Israel currently is occupying the West Bank. There are more than 2 million Palestinians that live in the West Bank. Israel is illegally occupying the West Bank. There are checkpoints. There are license plates that restrict Palestinian travel. the Israeli operations in the West Bank have destroyed Palestinian statehood. Now, of course, all of this is readily available for those who want to learn about it, yourself included. I hope you look it up. B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization which declared Israel to be an apartheid regime in 2021, in the April of 2021. Amnesty International declared Israel to be an apartheid regime.
Let me, before I move, hang on. Before I just want to bring in our two British panelists here, but just finally, just to clarify, Hasan, I can't quite work out whether you said you do think October the 7th was an unjustified act of revolution or whether you changed your mind. So can you clarify?
I think that violent means of maintaining an apartheid is inevitably going to yield violent retaliation.
So was it justified?
Something that is completely avoidable.
Was it justified?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hasan?
Hang on, Emily.
You look Goldberg Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this person's mother in the eyes and you tell him that this was justified. You tell him his arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying.
Palestinians who are made of identity.
It just... If you're not going to respect me and listen to what I have to say, which, by the way, of course you don't respect.
Gaza.
Oh, if you talk over each other, nobody can hear you.
I just mean I think. It's not I think. It's not I think. It's the entire world knows.
No, it is you think.
Hang on, Emily, please. Let me handle this, Emily. Hasan, just before I come to the two people who are with me here, I just need some clarity here because it seems like you're dancing around whether you think October the 7th was justified or not.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this back and forth masturbation? I've already given you my fucking
Piers, why
position.
Are you doing this?
I'm sick and tired of repeating it over and over again.
Okay,
because it's Jews, it's okay.
Ask this
Emily,
demon next to me wearing a fucking IDF dog tag.
Only when it's Jews, it's okay.
Please stop shouting at each other.
Next to me wearing an IDF dog tag if she actually thinks Israel's actions are justifiable.
Home.
Do you
it's
see
to bring
me
the hostages home. The hostages that you rightly believe belong in the
you know what it
tunnels of
is.
Gaza.
I'm going to give you two. I'm going to let you two calm down. It's pointless. We cannot hear you when you talk over each other.
Troll people.
Every time recently, I have someone from both sides on, like it goes like this.
I'm wearing this rusty necklace.
Please, can you listen to me, Emily?
Civilians in Gaza right now.
Can you stop doing this to each other, please? Nobody can understand a word either of you are saying. Now, let me come to Esther and James here. This is one of my problems.
No, I want to hear if Emily condemns the actions of
Hasan,
Israel.
you will please let me moderate the debate.
Why don't you ask her about 30,000 people?
I've got two panelists here who've not had a word yet.
Exactly, because you're a fucking terrorist.
Please stop talking.
And I think you're a terrorist. And I think you're a terrorist as well.
Okay, well, I'm not the one wearing...
Because until the hostages are home, don't expect the war to be over.
Yeah, I know.
Bring
you don't
them
care about the hostages. If you
I
cared
love
about the
how
hostages,
you're condemning
you would
me.
be
You are
screaming at
exposing
Benjamin Netanyahu.
your own terrorism
Benjamin
on live
Netanyahu
television.
is the hostage
you
killer.
You are exposing...
Benjamin Netanyahu has killed more hostages than Hamas.
What do you think you're achieving here?
Not only oppressing the Palestinian people, but for spreading terrorism. I don't see your outrage at Hamas. Israel gave Gaza back in 2005,
I would like to, please.
And Hamas has turned it into a terrorist haven.
Emily and Hasan, can you please show some courtesy to the other panelists?
Evil in comparison to Israel.
Can you please stop talking, both of you, and let the other two panelists have a say?
You want a soundbite, Piers? I'll give you a soundbite.
Give them some courtesy. Please, some courtesy for your co-panelists here. Now, Esther, this is one of the problems I have with this whole debate, is that increasingly it just descends into a screaming match between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis.
And the biggest losers are the victims of this war. 33,000 dead Palestinians, over 1,500 dead Israelis. These are the biggest victims of this because you're shouting at each other and nothing is getting, like, you're completely, forget having no courtesy for us. You're completely disrespecting actual victims of this conflict, which, by the way, didn't happen in a vacuum. And I think that's the most important thing to say about this. None of this happened in a vacuum. Of course, October the 7th was an atrocity and it was completely unjustified. There was no justification for butchering people in the way that they did. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of the people that live in Gaza weren't even born at the time that Hamas came in power. So I really I despise this, you're a terrorist sympathizer, you're a genocide supporter, all of this, when really the people that we should be talking about deserve better.
Okay, James, on the wider point of these protests.
Well, I couldn't get to that part because I wanted to describe what the apartheid is, and Emily cut in immediately to chirp about some random shit.
Okay, you were both abusing each other. It was very unedifying.
It was very
Let me ask James. James, on the protests.
Yeah, dude.
On the protests, look, I believe in the right to protest. It's an absolute bedrock of any democracy. But I don't believe in the right to support terror groups publicly or to chant about support for Hamas or to chant about intifada, which is a violent uprising. Where's the line for you with these?
I agree. I think we have to condemn what Hamas did, and I don't think the words that have been used so far have been strong enough. I mean, it was the worst thing we've seen in a very long time. It was disgusting, appalling, awful for everyone involved. I also have a lot of sympathy, if not, I can't think of a bigger word, for the people of Gaza. It's awful, and I will agree with you. I do want a free Palestine, and I also want a free and successful Israel, but I don't want innocent people murdered. So yeah, you can't go to a protest and start shouting about support for Hamas. That's insane.
Isn't it ironic that something like this has become a haven for like the mentally unwell? You're talking about something as serious as a conflict in Israel and Gaza, and for some reason you have really uneducated people that are clearly 20 years ago would have been in an asylum supporting this openly, not even knowing the conflict, not even knowing the context of what they're supporting, and for some reason we even give it airtime. That's what upsets me. These people don't deserve airtime. Right?
Everyone is so triggered on both sides, on all sides, and rightly so, because a lot of terrible stuff has happened. So that's where the emotion is coming from. But really, I think we all want the same thing, and that is for innocent people to not be murdered or slain in the streets.
Right. I mean, look, Hasan. Hang on, Emily, something? Please, I'll come to you. Let me just ask Hasan. When you and Emily go at each other like you just did, nobody wins. I mean, no one can really understand a word you're saying because you're shouting over each other. You end up just calling each other terrorists. There's no sensible dialogue here. There's no constructive conversation. It's just two implacably opposed sides abusing each other. Do you understand that?
Yeah, listen, Piers, okay? This is going to always be a very heated discussion, okay? Having a conversation about how heated this discussion is utterly unproductive. Every single moment that we use on air, not talking about every single university building being desecrated, destroyed. The fact that we're having this conversation on the eve of hundreds of mass graves being unearthed right now in many different parts of Gaza around hospitals that Israel had laid siege to is disgusting. I agree. I came on here, as I have done last time as well, and as I will probably do in the future as well, with one simple goal in mind, which is to address all of the misinformation that surrounds stuff like this. As far as the Crackhead Barbie thing goes, yeah, she's a random TikTok influencer who gives a shit about what she has to say. She's obviously doing it for clout. But the students over at Columbia, okay, the students that I have talked to at the Columbia University Apartheid Divest group, the students that I've talked to from Jewish Voice for Peace.
All right, Emily, let me just ask you the same thing I asked Hasan. When you guys scream at each other and call each other terrorists, it doesn't obviously achieve anything other than it becomes unintelligible to the audience. You know, is there not a better way we can have this conversation?
Funnily enough, correct. And funnily enough, I have the same exact answer as Hasan. My job here is to make sure that I'm debunking false narratives that Hasan is clearly spewing. My job here is to call out hypocrisy. And I just saw another one where he's saying that Crackhead Barney, whoever the hell that girl was, is a lunatic, but Aaron Bushnell, who lights himself on fire, is a hero. You can't pick and choose whatever fits your narrative. And I keep on repeating that over and over again, because the Palestinian movement will literally just take what they can get, spew all of the truth into their false narrative, spread misinformation, and then you say that we're the liars. You tell me I'm wearing an IDF dog tag. I'm wearing a bring them home for the hostages that you... No, it says bring them home.
You're using the hostages as a simple political tool to make propaganda in the West. Is quite disgusting. The protests that are happening in Israel right now are massive.
Are a political tool?
And those protests...
Why
you are using
Hasan,
humans in captivity as a political tool? It's so obvious.
Why, Hasan? Why are you dehumanizing the hostages? Because I have no problem admitting the Palestinians deserve better. I feel terrible.
You're using them as a political pawn.
I can say that.
If you cared about the hostages, you would be in Tel Aviv right
Hamas are
now
using the
alongside.
All right, let me bring in James. Let me bring in James, please.
I'm sorry that I can't listen to that, Hasan.
Let me bring in James.
I agree with both of your
Sorry, can you
arguments, but
please, when I say stop talking, please stop talking. We've got 4 people here. James.
if anyone is using hostages, surely it's Hamas, Hasan. How can you say that? How can you use that argument? That's a crazy thing to say. It's Hamas
What do you mean, how can I
have
use that
taken
argument?
these
There
people
are
from their
currently
homes,
tens of thousands of people in
murdered their
Israel.
relatives.
There are currently tens of thousands of Israeli citizens right now in the streets of Israel, in the streets of Tel Aviv, outside of Benjamin Netanyahu's house, protesting every single day. What are they protesting? They're protesting for Benjamin Netanyahu to facilitate a ceasefire with Hamas so that they can actually bring the hostages home. That is precisely the
But
number one
who
goal
here is
of the
using
family
the
members of the hostages.
hostages? Who is
and if
using the
anyone on
hostages?
this panel was
No,
being
answer
even a
that
little bit
question.
honest,
You've
they would
changed.
recognize
You're
the
not listening to
reality
my
that,
question.
listen, just listen.
You didn't listen to my question.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand perhaps what I'm trying to
That's
imply
very
here.
patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages. Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Where you're talking about how you want to fucking free Palestine, but also simultaneously, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything, okay? I don't give a shit about what your perspective is.
I agree
Hassan
with
doesn't
quite
like
a lot
what
of
you
the
have
things
to
you're
say,
saying,
so
Hasan.
you're wrong. It's Hassan's way or the highway.
I mean, you
Wow,
are.
really
There is no
clever
both
you
sides
are.
on a genocide. Is there a
Really
both sides on a
clever.
genocide? There is no both sides.
Well, the thing is, it's
there?
interesting you
There
should
is-
mention the
Really?
hostages.
What
There
is
is
in the
no both
Hamas
sides
charter?
and
They want
apartheid.
a
Hold on.
Jewish genocide, but that's okay. But a
the
Jewish
thing is,
genocide is okay.
if you're talking about the well-being of the if you're talking about the well-being of the hostages, what sense did it make for the IDF to flatten about 70% of Gaza? Because I completely agree. Bring the hostages home. If you look at Gaza, the topography of Gaza right now, it looks like a pancake. So I'm sorry, this whole argument of Hamas using them as human tools, fine, but the IDF has also been using it to continue that campaign. If you were told that, if God forbid, if your relative was one of the hostages and you saw what's happening right now, and I met someone whose mother is a hostage, and he said he didn't want his mother and her being taken to be used in the name of violence. Right now, he's sitting at home wondering, okay, what is the logic of trying to bring my mother home when you flattened Gaza? Please explain that to us.
So, can I pose
Because you might very well pull those hostages from under.
Okay, let Emily respond to that.
Everyone wants to criticize the IDF's response, but nobody wants to tell me what should Israel be doing to retaliate October 7th, eradicate Hamas from preventing another October 7th, and bring the hostages
I have
home.
an idea.
Do you have a solution?
I have an idea. Do not flatten Gaza and potentially pull your own hostages up from under the rubble, like have been done with thousands of Palestinians. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Have you found any of
So
them
you're
under
saying
the
that
rubble?
you don't have an answer.
That is the answer.
So you don't have
kill
an
your own
answer.
hostages.
But you're quick
That's
to
an
condemn the
answer.
IDF, but
How
you
does that
don't have an
sound?
answer.
I also
How
have
about
an
not killing the
answer.
hostages?
Very interesting.
I have an answer.
Thank you
Okay.
for proving my point.
It's called the
Yes,
dissolution
Hasan.
of the apartheid regime. That's what it's called. Dissolve the apartheid regime.
So what would you like to
allow
see happen,
Palestinians
Hasan?
breathing room. Do you not understand the English language?
We're
Dissolve
delayed.
the
It's
apartheid
delayed.
regime.
You need a Xanax, first of all. You need a Xanax. Okay, so should Israel do
I'm
to
sorry,
the West Bank
30,000
what they did to
Palestinians have been
Gaza?
ruthlessly slaughtered by the
Should
Israeli
Israel
state.
give
It makes
back
me a
the
little
land so
upset
that it can
when
turn
someone is
into another
defending that.
Gaza? Is that what you'd like to see? Another terrorist haven launching rockets all day instead of turning it to Singapore? Because that's what they did in 2005.
Wait, hold on.
See
What
how that
is
works.
Singapore?
The
The West
billions of
Bank.
dollars in
Hold on,
aid they
is the
turned
West
into
Bank
building
Singapore?
tunnels. Is that what you'd
Wait,
like
wait,
to
wait,
see?
wait. I don't know.
Who's
Have I
bombing
gone
Singapore
deaf?
every day?
Sorry,
What,
Emily,
is
is the
Singapore
West
an
Bank
open-air
supposed to be
prison?
Singapore?
What are you talking about?
Is the West Bank supposed to
The
be
West
Singapore?
Bank the West Bank has a port. They can import and export. Israel gave them a great piece of land. They received billions of dollars in aid, not only from
Israel
the
gave
U.S.,
them a great
but
piece of
Israel
land?
gave. Are you
No.
mad? They had a chance to rebuild, but they spent the last 15 plus years crying that they don't have enough
Okay. The
land
West Bank
because there is
Singapore.
never enough land for them instead of rebuilding. But that's okay. Build terrorist tunnels. Don't build hotels and don't rebuild
Israel
civilization.
has
Just build
not
terrorist
allowed
tunnels to keep hostages
Palestinians
in.
to have a nation state that they deserve by international law since the inception of the Israeli nation state. What you are saying is insane to me. The fact that you brought up the last 15 years as Palestinians crying is disgusting.
Oh, I have one more question.
You are a disgusting little monster
one more question.
who thinks
One more question.
that not offering contiguity to the Palestinians in the form of a state, which is under international law, is just simply Palestinians
I have one
crying.
question.
Okay?
This West
Palestinians
Bank
don't want a
Singapore.
two-state
Hold on.
solution. They want
West
a
Bank
one-state
Singapore.
solution that eradicates the Israelis, which is not an option.
Fine. This West Bank
You're wrong.
Singapore, what place
You're wrong.
does the settlements play in that? How? Please paint a picture of how the West Bank of Singapore, or whatever, Singapore of the West Bank. How does this illegal settlements fit into
Ma'am,
that?
I think you're completely missing. You're missing the picture.
Just explain to me
Israel
how the
wanted to
settlements
give
fit into that
them
picture.
a piece of land. I'm explaining it.
Okay, I'm listening.
The picture is they got a great piece of land to turn into society. Instead of
Who
turning it
got the
into
land?
civilized society,
Who did?
Israel gave the land to Gaza. They
So then why
withdrew.
the
They
Israeli
removed
settlers?
Israelis
It's not Israel's
from
land
their
to give.
homes.
But
It's
then
not
why
Israel's
the
land to
Israeli
give.
settlers?
It is not Israel's land to give.
There are no Jews or Israelis. There are no settlements in Gaza.
In the West
they
Bank.
gave it to
in the West
the
Bank. They're not in the
Palestinians.
West Bank.
I'm speaking about Gaza, and now
I'm
you're
asking
changing
about
the
West
narrative.
Bank because I was interested
I'm
in knowing about
showing
Singapore.
I'm telling you that if Israel
Palestinians-
pulls out completely from the West Bank, if Israel pulls out from the West Bank, you can bet your ass it turns into the next Gaza. The world does not need two Gazas because one Gaza has already caused enough damage. If, however,
Yes.
Gaza decides to demand
Every
that
argument
Hamas
with Israel
removes
is about
themselves from
some
power,
hypothetical.
and they can have democracy,
Israel has to do a
then yes,
genocide
there's
because if
potential for
Israel doesn't do a
two-state
genocide,
solution.
then the Gaza
There's
It
no
sounds a bit
genocide.
like
The
you're
only
victim
genocide
blaming
is the Hamas
Palestinians in
charter that
Gaza.
wants to
cannot
eradicate
do
the Jews.
defensive genocide.
You know, it's interesting the word
do defensive
genocide.
There is no
because-
genocide.
hang on, it's
There is
interesting the
no
word. It's interesting.
genocide
Hang
happening.
on.
It's just a
Israel is
buzzword.
doing
I would love to get a
genocide.
word in,
More loud.
please. Interesting the word genocide, because I've listened to all this fractious debate, everyone talking over each other. The truth is that actually only one side is publicly said that they wish to pursue a genocide, and that is Hamas. Hamas, after October the 7th, through their official spokesman on camera, said they wanted to do it again and again and again. That is the purest articulation of a genocide imaginable. And the one thing I never hear from the pro-Palestinian side is
really think-
what Israel was
Piers,
actually...
Piers,
Hang on.
Piers,
No, don't
Piers.
interrupt me.
So one
Because I haven't
Hamas
asked you a
official,
question yet.
One Hamas guy.
Sorry, I
But
need to
that's
ask you a
ridiculous.
question.
You're being a ridiculous person.
I'm not being
You're being a
ridiculous
ridiculous person.
I'm just saying, nobody ever
Because
tells
how
me...
many Israeli officials, even on your show, have said we should keep doing what we have been doing to Gaza over and over again? How does that not register in the same genocidal intent? If you think what that dude was saying, which was, by the way, ridiculous what he was saying, the Hamas official was saying, is that we're going to do October 7th over and over again.
But he said it.
We are justified in doing it over and over again. I find that to be abhorrent. However, what you fail to recognize is that's the genocidal intent, but not Amalek. That's the genocidal intent, but not saying we are fighting human animals. And that's why we have to cut off their food, their water, and their electricity. That was Defense Minister Yoav Gallant
There we
who said
go with
that.
the lies
Benjamin
again.
Netanyahu
You're
has
saying Israel
routinely
cuts
talked
off their
about this over and over
electricity.
again.
They don't even
Israeli
provide
interior
their
security-
electricity. You're
Israeli-
saying they cut off their water. They don't
Israeli
cut off their water.
politicians.
You are
Israeli-
spewing lies on
Can
national
you stop?
television.
Can you? I'm talking
I think so. Hang on.
It's not about you.
Again, you're talking over each other.
Some
of the comments.
Army that
There's no
provides
doubt,
aid
Emily.
to people they're at war with.
Some of the
Only
comments.
Israel.
Israel is
No, Piers, I'm not letting him
the
spew
most
misinformation.
caring
I'm not
country
letting
on
him
the
It's
spew
pointless.
planet.
blatant
I swear
lies
to
on
God.
television.
Start it again.
This is pointless. We're getting
No,
nowhere.
because he's
Thank you.
spewing
Did Yoav Gallant
misinformation.
not say that?
Israel's cutting off electricity,
Okay.
water, and aid. Just
We're getting-
Did
spewing
Defense
lies. I'm not
Minister
gonna let
Yoav
you do it.
Gallant say we are fighting human animals or not? Answer that question. Did Defense Minister Yoav
Yes,
Gallant
yes,
say
yes.
we are
Hamas
fighting
is
human
human
animals and
animals.
we have to cut off their
Hamas-
electricity,
correct.
cut off their food, cut off
Correct.
their water?
Okay.
Yeah, the slight
You know what? I'm going to cut
Israel
off. I'm
provides
going to cut off this
79%
debate.
of their electricity. The rest is Hamas.
I'm going to cut off the
That's
debate
not
because we're
Israel.
getting
Israel
absolutely
provides-
nowhere. But I
Okay.
appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you very much indeed.
We need people like these. We need people to speak up. Do not be ashamed of fighting for freedom. Speak up, brothers. Make sure you subscribe and like the video and make comment. Free Palestine. And guess what? Palestine is going to be free very soon. Inshallah.